Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I'll speak on Sri Visnu-sahasranama, name 455. Jnanam uttamam. Although we're in a holy place dedicated to Lord, or where Lord Shiva is, he gives his very name to this place. We'll speak about Lord Vishnu more. Actually, there are many places which the deity gives the name. Many places in India. Chidambaram of Lord Shiva, Rameshwaram of Lord Shiva. For Krishna, there's Nathdwara, Guruvayur, yeah. And we'll find many places which are named. I don't know if there may have been deity there previously. Just like we have Raghunathpuram in Telangana, just near to Goraipalli. Gopibalapur. Yeah, there's in Bengal. There's one in one area near Dhaka. There's a whole group of places called Gopaldi, Madhavdi, Narsingdi. There are some others also, which I don't remember. So we should do that. We should get all the places renamed. Jayapataka Maharaj is in the Gulf, because you can't say the idea was for it to be somewhat secret, because you're not supposed to be a Hindu preacher going to the Muslim countries. So Dubai became Damodar Desh, Bahrain became Balaram Desh, and Kuwait Kanaya Desh, and Oman, I'm not sure what it is. Other I don't know the other ones. Even though the whole country is Siam, apparently Thailand, apparently that's from Shama Desh. Burma is Brahmadesh, that's the Puranic name. So anyway, we're here speaking about Krishna. Oh, even Bombay, by the way, Mumba Devi, a local manifestation of Durga. Udupi, named after Krishna, right? No, Lord Shiva. Again, something again to do with the moon. Can't remember exactly. So we praise Lord Shiva, but not in the way that Shaivas do. We praise him as a great devotee, and in that context we praise him. But our main praise is for Krishna, even though there are statements in Shastra that Shiva and Vishnu are the same, and even there's a name, Harihara, which I just gave to one devotee now, which is the name of one of Lord Chaitanya's associates also. Hari is Krishna and Hara is Shiva. But still our concentration is on Lord Vishnu, because Lord Shiva means auspicious, Shiva, but he gets his Shivatva, his quality of being Shiva, from Lord Vishnu, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur states in one of his songs, in Sharanagati. So the center is Krishna, or Vishnu, and close this door. And Even Lord Shiva himself may not be that much pleased if we praise him so much to the exclusion of Vishnu. As we're told, Srila Prabhupada, he didn't even like devotees to chant Jai Prabhupada over and over again. He told them to stop. You chant Hare Krishna. And there's one Vyasa Puja offering from Atreya Rishi Prabhu in which he described that he was just praising Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, I don't know Krishna, I only know you, which is a devotional sentiment, but he was practically forgetting Krishna, or just only concentrating Prabhupada, and Prabhupada told him, no, this is wrong. You have to see the Guru as the servant of Krishna, and not that you praise him practically to the exclusion of Krishna. So that's important to understand, although the Guru is to be praised, but in context, in relationship to Krishna, always understanding that Krishna is the center. So therefore we're discussing Visnu-sahasranama. One name here is Jnanam uttamam, which Baladev Vidyabhushan gives the meaning. It's clear, easy to understand. The supreme object of knowledge, or he is the highest knowledge. Knowledge is a facet of consciousness. Consciousness can almost be described as non-different from knowledge, if we give a very broad definition to the term knowledge. Consciousness, awareness, that means you know something. Of course, you may be aware of something and not really know it very well. You may be illusioned also. For instance, to give a classic Shastric example, one may mistake a rope to be a snake, or one may mistake the shiny surface of an oyster shell to be silver. So you may see it, but you don't really know it properly. But knowledge is possible for those who have consciousness. There's different. Those who are not conscious cannot have knowledge, and to the extent that one's consciousness develops, that much one can properly understand things as they are. That understanding is inherent in the idea that, well, Hare Krishna, if we just educate everyone, then society will become much better. People will become very cultured if everyone is educated, because that idea came up in the Western world, maybe in the late 19th century or whatever. Let's start educating everyone, and then all these vulgar, low-class people, they'll become very well behaved, because the people who were educated at that time were the upper-class people, and they were considered to be gentlemen and gentlewomen. Of course, they had some habits like hunting animals, and eating animals, but the gentlemen of Britain were trained to go and fight in wars and go all over the world and conquer the world and put those dark-skinned people in order to civilize them with the knowledge that they have. So this was considered. It's considered that if everyone becomes educated, then everyone will become gentlemen. There will be no more ruffians. But it hasn't happened, because they haven't. The education is not to lift. Doesn't actually lift people to a higher platform of consciousness. It was considered that, well, classical education in England was, or Britain, was, not to leave out Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland and the rest, was to teach Latin and Greek and then the classics. such as the Iliad, the Odyssey, and Latin works, Virgil, and this and that. So that's considered, that puts people on a higher platform of consciousness where they can think in terms of nobility, self-sacrifice, philosophical vision of the world, wisdom, within their understanding. They consider this as a very, very high knowledge. But it doesn't have the potency to lift people to the mode of goodness. Without specific knowledge of the modes of nature and how to go beyond them, there may be some elevation of consciousness, but not to the spiritual platform. There is Indriyani prani ahur indriyebhya parang manah manasastu para buddhe yo buddhe paratastu saha. So for human beings who are practically on the levels of animals, just on the sensual platform, they can be lifted, or maybe even in humans who are on the sensual platform, they can be raised, or they also operate somewhat on the mental platform. They are more advanced than animals. But the intellectual platform, the education, the best of useless education raises one to the intellectual platform. We could lock the door and say, don't bother coming anymore. Hare Krishna. But that is, the intellectual platform doesn't actually purify one. There should be knowledge of the three modes of material nature and beyond. Srila Prabhupada, as we well know, often said that education is meant primarily for character development. Otherwise, one can be well educated, but that education is without actual purification of heart, then that education is compared to a gem on the hood of a snake, which looks very attractive, but the snake is just as dangerous, maybe more dangerous, because you become attracted to that gem, and I think it's something, it's got a good gem on its hood, so it must be a very good snake. But it's more dangerous. So real knowledge begins with knowledge of the self, Atma Gyan. This term used to be very well known among Hindus. Now I don't know if they're so much divorced from even the most basic understanding of anything to do with spiritual knowledge. But knowledge begins with Atma Gyan, to understand oneself to be different to the body. And then going beyond that, one or further developing that, one understands oneself to be an eternal servant of Krishna. And then there are many details within that also. So the highest knowledge is to understand oneself as an eternal servant of Krishna. Now, within Vedic knowledge, much importance is given to knowledge. Vedic knowledge, we're using two languages, but Veda means knowledge, so it means knowledge, something like that. All we have to say really is Veda or Vidya, but because other things are also considered to be knowledge, therefore we say Vedic knowledge. Otherwise there is Western university knowledge and knowledge derived from reading the patterns in tea leaves. You know about that? That's one method of divination. Some people look in crystal balls, and then there's one method of finding out what's going on. You pour out the tea leaves and you can read the pattern in the tea leaves. That's supposed to be one way of mystic divination. So there are various kinds of knowledge, but Vedic knowledge is actual knowledge, and much importance is given to that in Vedic college. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitrameha vidyate. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that in this world there is nothing as pure as knowledge. And there is a class of transcendentalists who are called Jnani, because they give much importance to knowledge, with the idea that by acquiring knowledge of the self, they can become liberated. Supreme knowledge is beyond the impersonal conception of the Jnanis. They think that knowledge means to understand, I am Atma, Aham Brahmasmi, and that's it. And because in the Vedas it says that Brahma is supreme, and also the Jiva is Brahma, so they say, okay, so Jiva, if A plus B equals C, and A plus D equals C, then B must be equal to D. Simple logic to understand. However, linguistically, that doesn't always work. For instance, in Sanskrit, vasa can mean residence. It can also mean smell. And there are many words which have the same word has actually completely different meanings. Just like, for instance, the word junket. Do you know what junket means? Anyone knows what junket means? Well, there are 3 different meanings of it, which are all completely different. You're looking it up in the dictionary. One meaning is a kind of Chinese ship. Another meaning is a preparation made from milk, putting rennet into it, which is not like cheese. And another thing is someone going on a pleasure trip at the expense of the government or his company. That's also called a junket. So they're completely different meanings. Brahma as the individual soul and as the supreme soul, they may say, well, both souls. So there can be one word which has the same meaning, but which is also nuanced, just like you say, this is a man. All right, that's generally understood to be a male of the human species, Homo sapiens. That is a man. But then you may say it also, oh, that is a man. If you see someone who's really strong and noble and manly. So there can be some nuanced meanings also. But in Bhagavad Gita, that particular distinction is made. Krishna is Param Brahma, which means there is Brahma, which is he's Brahma, but he's in a different category. And to say that all the jivas are God because Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahma, and Brahma is the supreme. To explain that, you have to to take that conclusion, you have to very imaginatively interpret so many Vedic injunctions which speak about the supreme, or one person who is supreme, specifically Vishnu or Krishna. And you have to deny so many statements which specifically establish Krishna as the Supreme Lord. So, just like to say, well, I am human, and just trying to think. Pranab Mukherjee is also human. But that doesn't mean they're on the same level. Of course, this is a mundane example. But it's not that anyway, there are so many arguments against impersonalism. It's not that everyone's equal. Just because everyone is by nature spiritual doesn't mean even on the material platform that they're equal. And in spiritual existence also. not equal. So, Jnanam uttamam also suggests that he is above the Jnana of the so-called Jnanis. Jnanam uttamam. The Jnana uttama means above ignorance. So some so-called knowledge is actually a manifestation of ignorance. It's an accumulation of information with a wrong understanding. Jaro vidya jato mayar bhaibhav tomar bhajane badha, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said, that materialistic knowledge is, and it's a manifestation of the might of the illusory energy, and it simply makes the jiva into an ass. That's the to call someone an ass in, at least, in Vedic culture and in Western culture, all over the world, to call someone an ass is an insult, because an ass is a stupid animal. So it makes you, it makes one, materialistic knowledge makes one into an ass. And incomplete spiritual knowledge is also misleading, because one thinks that one is on the path to attaining or has attained the highest perfection, whereas actually he hasn't. So that's misleading. So if we take Gyan, so real knowledge takes us beyond ignorance. It's axiomatic. To know means you're not ignorant. If you're ignorant, you don't know. They're opposites, knowledge and ignorance. So real knowledge is that which takes us above ignorance, and which suggests that there is a kind of knowledge which doesn't take us above ignorance. We become learned fools. If I'd have prepared for this class more, I could have found that quote from, I think it was Pope, a great satirist of English. He talks about learned fools with big blocks of lumber in their head. Lumber means big heavy logs of wood, carrying around big heavy logs. Same thing, the ass, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, suggests that you're carrying around so much useless information, which is simply a burden on your consciousness. So, real knowledge is that which takes us above ignorance, and Jnanam uttamam means that knowledge which is beyond what most people consider to be jnana. It's beyond that, it's higher than that. Jnana also means that the knowledge means something specific, whereas the impersonalists, they think that knowledge leads to a state of non-specificity, if there is such a word. Non-specificness, but knowledge means you have a clear understanding about something. You can't have a clear understanding about nothing. There's nothing to know. Now the scientists may say, there's very interesting studies of vacuums. But a vacuum is only understood in relation to space. Is it not? Just like darkness is only understood in relationship to light. It's an unnatural state. So you may say that, there is emptiness or void or nothingness. But that's artificial, and that also occupies some space. Although probably by some kind of mathematical theory you could work it out that it doesn't occupy any space. But anyway, why take so much interest in nothing anyway? I always wondered why the Buddhists are so interested in nothing. Why they're interested in nothing? The reason is because they find everything in this world to be of no value. And so they say nothing is better than something. Or they say, actually correctly, that there's nothing in it. In the whole world there's nothing. There's nothing of any value. That doesn't mean there is no thing of any value. Krishna. They missed Krishna. They went enthusiastically trying to get away from the nothingness and the emptiness, but they started off on the wrong track and they ended up further away. As the great sage Stephen Covey says, that start with the goal in, what is it? Start with the end in mind. Yeah, okay. Thank you for arriving and giving us the proper shastric evidence. Start with the end in mind. So, first of all, we should know where we're going. Actually, the Gyanis on their impersonal quest, they don't really know where they're going. They're supposed to be seeking the truth. And they're seeking and seeking. That means they don't even know what it is. They're always looking for it. They don't even know what it is. And the neti, it's not this, it's not that, it's not this, it's not that, it's not, well, it must be just nothing. They come to the conclusion. And then one of them, Bahunam Janmanamante Gyanavam Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. One of them may just, by the grace of a pure devotee, finally, after many births, understand it's Krishna. Or you might just be some hamburger eating, beer drinking, tobacco smoking, ati malecha walking down the street one day and get a Bhagavad Gita as it is and actually read it and surpass all the endeavors of the so-called Gyanis immediately. It's quite possible by the grace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu being channeled through Srila Prabhupada and his followers who go and distribute the books. So, Jnanam uttamam means the knowledge higher than that of everything else in this world, which is considered knowledge. And the highest knowledge is not just knowledge of Krishna. You say, not just. What do you mean, just? How can you say just suggests it's something very small or inferior? There's something more. Well, there is more. There is more. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was conversing with Ramananda Rai, he rejected so many propositions. Eho bhaja, this is external. Then he came to the point, eho hoi. Okay, this is good. Jnane prayasam udapasya, giving up the endeavor to simply acquire knowledge and think you'll become perfect in this way. Namanta eva, becoming humble. Namanta eva jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiyavartam. Then one should live by hearing about Krishna from realized devotees. So in this way one should hear about Krishna. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, okay, very good. But he was saying before, eho bhaja age kahoha. This is external, say something more. Then he said, eho hoi age kahoha. Okay, this is good. Now say some more. First of all he was saying, this is external, say something more. Then he said, okay, this is good. Now go on saying something more. And he went on and on and on up to the topics of Radha Krishna Prema Keli, Krishna's intimate, loving relationships and loving pastimes with Radha. So it's knowledge of Krishna, but not simply knowledge of him as the Supreme Person, but knowledge of him as the Supreme Lover and the Supreme Lovable. Rasa Jnanam. We find in the beginning of the Bhagavatam that Sutta Goswami expressed on behalf of all the rishis at Naimesharanya, the Vayam tu navitripyama. We find in so many places that if you hear about Krishna, you'll be satisfied. But he said, we're not satisfied. We heard about Krishna, we're not satisfied. Vaya Vayam tu na vitrapyama uttama shloka vikrame. We heard so much about the glories of the Supreme Lord, and we're not satisfied. Yad shrinvatam rasagyanam swadu swadu pade pade. That by hearing about this rasagyanam, then we taste it at every step. So then they're never satisfied. What's your favorite food? I can ask you, what's your favorite food? Is it idiyappam or sandesh or shrikand or samosas or sausages? Vegetarian sausages. I know you don't eat meat sausages. What is it? Whatever it is. Say it's gulab jamuns. Who's the world gulab jamun eating champion? It was Suhotra Swami, but he's doing it somewhere else now. They actually had a competition once after a big feast, him and someone else, after a feast. And he outdid everyone else. So, the gulab jamuns in the West, they're like tennis balls. At least they used to be, I don't know. With the Kali Yuga, everything's decreasing, so maybe they became smaller now. But whatever it is, there comes a point where you say, no more, no, I can't take even one more, I can't even look at one. Whatever it is. But with the rasa jnana, then one desires to taste that more and more and more, on and on. And Parikshit Maharaj actually did that 7 days and nights not sleeping, which we can't do. As I can see with most of you, struggling to stay awake. And I would be also if I was listening to the class and not giving the class. I'll try and say a few jokes to keep you awake. That's one way of trying to keep people awake. There's also the famous spray system. I think Suhotra Swami also introduced that. He's expert at hitting people from 20 meters away with the water spray. So Jnanam uttamam, the highest knowledge is knowledge not simply of Krishna and his greatness as the Lord of the world, as Vishnu, but as Rasik Shekhar. That is the that word is given in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'm just trying to remember the verse. No, I can't. I don't remember it now. No. Advitiya Nandatmaja Rasika Shika. What's the first line? Advitiya. Swayam Bhagavan Krishna Ekaleshwa Aditya Nandatmaja Rasika Sheka. So we find that Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, he's the supreme personality of Godhead. Ekaleshwa, he's the only controller, actual controller. Advitiya, there's no one equal to him. So these are all terms praising him in terms of his majesty. But then he's Nandatmaja, the son of Nanda Maharaj, and Rasika Shekhar, he's the prime or the best relisher of everything that's worth relishing. So we find in that verse he's very great, but he's this also. So both things are present in him. So the highest knowledge is not simply to know him as Swayam Bhagavan. Actually the Bhagavatam, Jiva Goswami has pointed out that the Paribhasha Sutra, or the definitive statement by which we are to understand the Srimad Bhagavatam is that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ete Changsa Kalaposa. Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna, specifically Krishna. Why so is specifically analyzed by Rupa Goswami, where he gives all the qualities that the jivas may have. Then Shiva has more, Narayan has more, but Krishna has 4 qualities which even Narayan doesn't have, which shows that he's the Supreme Lord. And so many, he has his prema madhuri, his loving affairs with his devotees. Rupa madhuri, his form is so attractive that it attracts even Narayana. Then Venu madhuri, his flute is very sweet. Venu madhura. And what's the other one? Lila madhuri, his pastimes are very sweet. So Krishna is established as the supreme. When you get to the level of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his innumerable universes emanate from his body, and what are you going to describe more? What goes beyond that? And then you go, he plays a flute. Wait a minute, humans can play flutes also. So what's then we have to see the descriptions of playing his flute and Anantadev holding up the universe. He starts to tremble and the whole universe trembles, and Brahma becomes astonished and his head is whirled around. It's not some ordinary flute player. And there are so many descriptions of his form which is so beautiful that it attracts even Narayana. So in this way, his Supreme Personality of Godheadness surpasses the Supreme Personality of Godheadness, or the Bhagavata, even of Vishnu. So I'm going through Visnu-sahasranama, and this can help us to realize how great is Lord Vishnu. And then beyond that, certain people, they may be very upset. What do you mean beyond? How can it be beyond? They'll take that to be offensive. If you say there's something beyond Narayana. But actually, Lord Shiva, he states that the topmost worshipable is Vishnu. Vishnu Aradhanam Param. Tasmat Parataram Devi Tadiyanam Samarchanam. But more is the paraphernalia, specifically devotees in relationship to him. And why is that? Because devotional service is more powerful than God. He becomes subordinate to that. So these things, we'll find hints of this, some understanding in the other sampradayas also, but that's fully magnified and fully put center stage by the Gauryas, how Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he's the cause of all causes, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karna Karna. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then innumerable universes emanate from him. The sun rotates on his order. In Brahma Samhita, the Brahma's prayers, there are so many points pointing out his supremacy, but there are also indications of his very sweet Vrindavan Leela, beginning with Chintamani Prakara Sadma Sukalpa, with his innumerable cows. Then there's Ananda Chinmaya, Yang Shama Sundaram Achinta Guna Sarupam. There's that one verse which comes up twice, which I'm also tired, that's my excuse. That Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Mataya Manasu, the other one, which is not quoted so much. Yat praninam pratipalan smaratamapi lilayatena bhuvanani jayatya jasram govindamadi purusham tamahambhajami. He dominates the universes by his sweet leelas. That's the real thing. So Jnanam uttamam, he is knowledge. He is the topmost knowledge is not simply to know that I am spiritual, not even, and most of the commentators on Visnu-sahasranama, they wouldn't take it this way, the topmost knowledge is Narayana, but even look beyond, look a little higher. Just keep looking a little higher, and when there comes a point where you can't go there's no further to go, then we realize that my position is like a blade of grass, less than a blade of grass. But still, Krishna wants us to serve him, so we should do so, despite lacking any qualification. But Krishna wants us to serve him. I'm less than a blade of grass. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu specifically taught us that we should conceive ourselves as less than a blade of grass. But Krishna wants us to serve him, that knowledge we get from Shastra. And if we do, then it's been a long weekend. If we do, then Krishna considers the devotee more than himself and gives himself to the devotee. So this is another aspect of the highest knowledge, that God gives himself to the devotee. And again, many theists would consider this blasphemous. They just can't imagine that we have to be just completely subordinate. Yes, we do, and we always preach that. But then, if you look a little higher, then we find that by the glory of Krishna, his greatest glory is not that he's this supreme smasher on the head of the naughty souls, or the supreme thrower into hell forever. But his glory is, pretty much all theists will say that he's merciful. Glory to the all-merciful Allah who throws people into hell forever. But where's the mercy? That's my question, or it's an obvious question. Where's the mercy? But the mercy is even not just delivering people, but giving to them more than we deserve, or more than we can imagine. He gives himself to the devotee. He doesn't insist that get under my feet and I'll smash you, crush you under there forever. But he wants to give himself. So this is Jnanam uttamam. In the commentary of Bhatta, I can't remember his name now. Ranganatha Bhatta says that the supreme knowledge, Bhagavan is the one who has revealed the Vaishnava dharma, which is the most superior of all dharmas, and he gives reference to that. Sarva paro Vaishnavo dharma gyayate asmin iti jnanam uttamam. Oh, that's probably his own comment. Among all the to know that the Vaishnava dharma is the highest, that is the highest knowledge. So yeah, we agree with that, but just how far does it go? How far does knowledge of Vaishnavism go? And he also says that the revelation of the Pancharatra, which in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya is given great importance, and actually we do also. Another instance that he is the uttama jnana. Then Shankara in his commentary says that he speaks of the supreme knowledge as being superior to all, birthless, continuous and permanent, unlimited by time and space, and the best means of achieving everything. In other words, that's Veda knowledge. It's eternally existing, transcendent to time and space. Aparushaya. It's always, Veda is knowledge which always exists. In one sense, independent of everything. But in another sense, knowledge has to have some subject. So the subject is Krishna. Vedaischa sarverahameva vedyaha. There is no knowledge of nothing. It can only be defined in relation to things. So you can't really understand nothing. Anyway, you can't understand it, but even the concept of it can only be understood in relationship to things, which is probably why Buddhists and others, they have, some of them have a very strange methods of trying to attain realization by things like meditating on the sound of one hand clapping, because there's no such thing. But if you try to understand no thing in relation to other things, then you're thinking about things again. So they come up with the sound of one hand clapping. But then again then you have to think of one hand. I don't know, they don't know either. And those who know do not speak, so shut up. So Shankara quotes, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Favorite statements of the impersonalists. There's no reason why they shouldn't be favorite of Vaishnavas also. But somehow or other they interpret, because the specific name is not given there, they somehow interpret this to be impersonal. Brahma, the Supreme, is truth, knowledge, and infinitude. This is from Taittiriya Upanishad. That knowledge, which is divine, beyond that of this world, which is the best. Also, the best knowledge is not only theoretical, but it's also practical. It's something useful. For instance, it is possible to get a PhD in, the social customs of the ancient Babylonian nobility. You could maybe do some research and write a PhD on this. It's of no practical use to anyone. You can't really apply that knowledge. There is some kind of idea among scholarly people that knowledge for the sake of knowledge, we just keep on learning things and then it all helps us to know more and more things, but it's not really of much practical use. You could add it to the study of anthropology or whatever, even if you could piece things together. Not much practical help. Or even if one is taught the best knowledge, Krishna is supreme, but one is not taught the path to realize that and come close to Krishna, then that's incomplete. So the Vaishnava Dharma is that knowledge which gives us knowledge of the Supreme, our position, our relationship, also how to act in that relationship. That's the knowledge in and of itself is not valuable as much as the application of the knowledge. And again, if you get a degree in medicine and but you don't use it, yes, then it's what's the use? Of course, you can become a transcendental doctor. That's better. But if one sees, someone is suffering from a disease, you know how to treat them, but you don't, other people don't know, but you don't apply that knowledge, then what was the use of your studying? So, actually, knowledge is meant for application also. Simply to know is not fully helpful. Of course, that always in human society there is a class, intellectual class, who cultivate knowledge. But they're also supposed to advise others, but because cultivation of knowledge is itself so vast, and there are some who mostly concentrate on cultivating knowledge, and we'll find just like in Udupi and the area, the sannyasis themselves may not be as knowledgeable as the householder pandits, who the pandits, they only had to study, but the sannyasis, they may also be organizing the mat and going here and there, giving lectures. Traveling and preaching and studying, they don't go together so well. Also, though some great acharyas did so, but just like we find Ramanuja and Madhva, they would travel and then they would stop in one place and write. And then again they would travel. And when they were traveling, they were preaching, they were also always collecting information, finding manuscripts. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also, when he went to South India, first in his youth, before accepting sannyas, he was collecting manuscripts, finding out about the organization of the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. So when they travel, they don't just travel here and there, giving lectures, this, that, but they're also learning. So an important part of knowledge is to always learn, to always be open to learn. And the very highest level, of course, there's not much interest in knowledge. The devotees, they just want to love Krishna and serve Him. As we find on more than one occasion when Krishna spoke to or sent messages to the gopis that, well, you're suffering from separation from me, but anyway you should know that I am the Supreme in everyone's heart and I'm also in your heart. And so they weren't interested in such knowledge. They just wanted to love Krishna. They didn't give any importance to such knowledge, which was superficially above their level, but actually much below their level. So some other notes here. Radha Krishna Shastri, a commentator, contrasts limited knowledge with superior knowledge. The knowledge that we acquire via the senses is always limited because our senses are limited and our consciousness is limited and our knowledge is limited. So when we see something, we can only understand it to the extent that we have knowledge of it. So for instance, if we see the sun in the sky, okay, we see it. If we learn from science textbooks that it is a mass of gas, or whatever is the present understanding of the sun. I'm more than 40 years out of school, so probably the understanding has changed since then. But then we can say, oh yes, you see, and it's emitting these kind of rays, and it's so such and such a temperature at the heart of the sun, and so you can understand more if one has knowledge. Of course, one can also take Vedic knowledge and understand that the sun is a planet with the sun god, moves at different speeds on a chariot, with the Valakilyas standing, facing the sun god and praising him. And we can go and give a university and go to the university cosmology department and tell them that. But either way, one can understand more if one has knowledge. But that's always limited, because the ability of the jiva to know is always limited. There's always more to learn about anything. anything, even if it's just one speck. You could spend your whole life just studying one speck, and if you want to get into the atomic structure, and then there's no end. So our knowledge is limited by the basic limitations that we have as jivas, but Krishna is above such limitations. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. So his truth, knowledge, limitless. There are no limits on his knowledge. There are also limitations on that which is observed. So why bother to study? If we have entrance into understanding the unlimited, then why bother studying that which is limited, temporary, and the source of all distress? If we are given entrance into knowledge of that which is eternal, blissful, unlimited, then why should we take interest in anything which is limited, temporary, and the cause of distress? Therefore, one who has actually tasted the bliss of Srimad Bhagavatam, they're not interested. Kingva parai. What is the use of anything else? If we have this knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam. So the knowledge of Bhagavan, the uttama jnana. We are by nature Sat Chit Ananda. Chit means consciousness, which I started out by saying consciousness and knowledge are almost synonymous. There's no consciousness without knowledge, and no knowledge without consciousness. So in our present conditioned condition, we are not full of knowledge, but we become full of knowledge. That quest for knowledge, to know, that's considered among humans, that is considered civilization, which distinguishes us from the animals. One major facet of that is the quest for knowledge, to have universities and study and know so many things, which is why modern man thinks that he's the most civilized and advanced man, because his knowledge, according to his own knowledge is more than at any other phase in history. And it's always increasing, therefore we're becoming more and more advanced and civilized, but there'll never come an end to it. They solve one problem in science, they didn't understand this, okay, now we solved it. Then they investigate some more and they find there's some problem with that also. And then they do some more investigation and they find some problem, and it'll go on forever. There's no end. There'll never come a point where you can know everything, even though that Stephen Hawking, he ended his book, was there a brief history of time? He ended the book by saying that if we could understand this, then we will know everything and we'll understand the mind of God, which led some people to think that maybe he's some kind of theist, and he made it clear that he's not at all a theist. And then someone else, Paul Davis, wrote a book called The Mind of God. But the idea is that, well, and the scientists are looking at this theory of everything, which explains everything. But it wouldn't explain, for instance, why you're so interested to know everything. Why? So how did a bunch of chemicals even have the capacity to know anything? And what is it that impels them to do anything? This whole evolutionary theory, the struggle for existence, but chemicals don't struggle for existence. What is it? Where did that come in the interaction of various chemicals? Where did it come that certain chemical combinations desire to survive, even though they're not going to survive? Anyway, even though they're going to die. So this quest for knowledge is fully satisfied in Krishna. Then you become satisfied. There are so many verses in this regard. which I can't remember any right now. Vasudeva Param Jnanam, that's a very good one, yeah. He is the highest knowledge. And there are so many verses in Bhagavatam. I was seeking, and now I found you, I'm fully satisfied. Not exactly that, but a similar one. Bhavantamevanu charan nirantara prashanta nishesha manoratantara kadaham aikantika nitya kinkara praharshi yashame sanata jivata. Expression of great relief. Now I'm fully satisfied. I was always just floating on the platform of the mind. Well, actually it's not, it says in the form of when will I come to that level? But obviously from stating like this, he's already on that level. When will that time come that I will identify myself as your servant? Bhavantameva anuchara, the idea of following behind obediently as a servant. Knowing myself to be your eternal servant, then I'll be fully satisfied beyond the platform of the mind. So Jnanam uttamam is Vishnu. That's one of the names in Visnu-sahasranama. And if we look a little higher, then we'll find Krishna. Means going from Vaikuntha up to Golok. And as this look a little higher, I'm quoting actually from one statement. Sridhar Maharaj, Bhakti Raksha Sridhar Maharaj said that if you just looking a little higher, you'll see there is Radha. There's all this talk, prema, rasa, jnanam, all these things. But that is meaningfulized, infused with meaning by Radha, without whom Krishna feels himself completely devastated and useless. And there's no bliss, there's no ras, lila, there's nothing without her. That's so. That's Jnanam uttamam, and then go a little higher, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu I say to Ramananda, go higher, go higher, go higher, go higher, go higher. And at one point Ramananda said, well, I never met anyone who asked me to go higher than this. You're the first one I met who's just going up, 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 up. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he at one point started asking different questions, and then what's the best subject of hearing, and what is the best this, and he answered all in terms of Radha Krishna. I began this Shravan Kirtan, I'm quoting this. Shravan Madhe Kan Vishoy Shreshta Shravan Radha Krishna Prema Keli Karna Rasayam. What is the best subject for hearing? The loving pastimes between Radha and Krishna, which is tonic for the ears. So it's good to have classes, have some tonic for the ears at least once a day, as we have to hear so many other things during the course of the day. Hare Krishna. Yeah.
There was that nice point from Srila Saraswati Thakur, that desire of scientists to know everything is simply expression of their envy.
The desire of the scientists to know everything is simply an expression of their envy. They can't admit that only he can know everything, and they have the ambition that they want to know more and more and more. in Wahhabi Islam, they have this idea. It's similar to what Prabhupada said also, but not as finely understood or nuanced. That what's all the point? What's the point of studying all these things in universities and all this advancement of civilization? You should study the Quran and understand God. But in Vedic culture we have it, we also accept that, but then we also say that, well, in the Vedas there are also different branches of knowledge, and even though the study of God is the ultimate, we recognize there are people on different levels also. Because what you get, if you only emphasize the highest thing, then not everyone can reach to that, and everyone else is just left stranded. So Vedic culture, Varnashram culture, caters to everyone at their level and tries to bring them up. But if you say there's only one, actually there is only one thing of any real meaning, but if we only stress that and don't give any platform for anyone else on any other level, then they can't make any progress toward that level. So it's all or nothing. Either you go to Jnanam, is it heaven, or you burn in hell forever. That's all. But Vaishnava understand, at least Gauriya Vaishnava, is that all right? You make progress. If you better to come to the highest level. If you can't, then you can make some progress in this life, or at least not degrade. Vasudeva param jnanam, Vasudevang parang tapaha. All these jnana, tapa, sacrifices, everything. The ultimate aim is to please Vasudeva. That verse also, idang hi pungsas tapasas shrutasya va svishtasya suktasya cha buddhidatayaha avichutarto kavibhya nirupita ya uttama shloka gunanuvarnanam. That all these endeavors in human society, austerities, learning, following principles of varnashram dharma, worship, ultimately that is meant for understanding and glorifying Krishna, His qualities. So, Hare Krishna, we can finish there. For now, all glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada.